This is a joint session, literally, JK. But thank you all for filling the room to give my sister the heebie-jeebies as she's about to talk to you about an amazing subject. And this is my sister, and she is fantastic. So let's give a round of applause for my sister. And then if you like what she says, do that at the end too. So without further ado, Heather Medlar.
Pardon me while I readjust from that amazing introduction. All right, well, thanks for joining the session today. I'm excited to share this subject with you because it's something that, as a Salesforce administrator, we deal with on a regular basis. But I'll just tell you, I'm a 3-year Salesforce administrator, so really new. But nobody really ever explained to me how to do testing. They just said, you've got to do testing before it goes to production. And that was it. Okay, so I'm like, what exactly is testing? So my coworker and I, we had a great meeting in January where we were discussing the things that we wanted to do this year, and we talked about how we wanted to create like a testing process because all these things were not quite happening well in our organization. We're like, we got to do better. We should come up with some kind of process. So she couldn't be here today. Her name's Mandy. I love her. She's great, and I get to work with her. So I'm here to share this with you today. So here we go. First of all, we need to thank our sponsors. Yay, sponsors! Yes, because we couldn't be here without them. So thank you so much. Please be sure and check out all their tables. A little bit about me, like I mentioned, I am a global Salesforce administrator, and that's because I work for LexisNexis, that is a global company. So for me, I get to talk with people from all over the world every single day of my job, right there from my home computer. So it's very exciting to me because that really energizes me because I love exploring new cultures and meeting people and finding about their experiences and eating their food and just getting to know about them. So it works well. I landed in a really great place. I do have a family that still loves enjoying living with me. I have a husband, Mark, and I have 2 boys, one who just started high school, Luke, and one that is in 5th grade. They're both well into their own sports, and I've become, the hobby of my life is becoming a sports mom, and I really enjoy it. So I will be on any baseball field in the state of Ohio, maybe Indiana, Kentucky, any of those places that are near to me. I am from Cincinnati, Ohio, so I came all the way over here to share with you today. And as he may have mentioned, I did dramatically just change my career path. I used to be an educator, a church minister, a musician, and now I'm a Salesforce administrator. And I had the privilege of sharing that journey and story with you here last year at Mile High. So excited to be back here today. So first of all, I just want to share with you kind of to give you an understanding of where I'm coming from. I thought I'd share with you kind of at LexisNexis how we work. Like, what is the structure? So number one, I mentioned it's a global company, okay? I'm on a team of business analysts, administrators, lead administrators, developers, technical engineers, product managers, and architects, and we all work together. So yes, it's a large team, and with that comes its own set of interesting things. So, and the customer that we serve is actually our internal sales segments and operation groups within LexisNexis. So that's our customer. And so the requirements that we get for our work are gathered by our business analysts and product managers, and they create those user stories, and we happen to use Microsoft products, so we use Azure DevOps, and I will refer to that as ADO from now on. So right now we have 3 teams. There's a marketing team that has, all those lists of titles in it, a sales core team, which is what I serve on, and we have a CPQ team, okay? And so that is kind of how our teams are built, how we work. We do follow a basic agile process. We work in 3-week sprints with all the ceremonies of elaboration, refinement, daily stand-up meetings, retrospectives, and 3 amigos. When we receive a user story to work on during a sprint, it usually is either an enhancement or a spike. And a spike, if you don't know, is like a research project. Basically, like one spike that I have right now is Winter 25 release is happening in our org on October 12th. So you need to figure out what we need to do about it. Okay, go. That's usually the instructions that I get. So we add, when we get our user stories, then we add our tasks and the steps that we're going to do to solve or fix this user story. We add those tasks in ADO, and then we also document all our work right there. So we attach our Word documents or our Excel spreadsheets, et cetera, and so forth. So anybody else in here do Agile? Yep. Good, okay. There's a lot of different ways to do it. That's just what we do, so I'm kind of sharing with you our background. The development, so this includes, let's see, I wanted to say here, as a Salesforce administrator, our work usually does not include QA testing at LexisNexis because it is declarative work and doesn't really deal with a lot of code. Therefore, it's our responsibility to do our own testing and make sure the changes we make will work when it gets into production. And another note is I want to say that we use Compado as our DevOps tool. So that's what we currently work with. So here's kind of a quick look at my process. We analyze and document what needs to be done. So we do that and we put it in our ADO story. We do our development, the changes that need to be made. We do that and we work through a sandbox system. So we do that in our dev sandbox, stands for development. And then guess what? We test before we move it on. Then I use Compado. Actually, I have a peer review. So somebody else peer reviews my work in Compado, checks out the Git folder and all of that. And then we promote it to our int sandbox. And then guess what? I run through all my tests in the int sandbox to make sure that they work. And when I know that they are working, then we promote it to UAT. UAT is our sandbox where we invite business stakeholders to also take a look. So we have certain ones queued and we say, okay, it's in UAT now. Please go ahead and test, what you asked us to do and see if it's working for you functionally. And if it does, great. Then we move on and I request for the changes to be moved to prod. And if not, guess what? We go back to the beginning. We figure out what broke, why it doesn't work. And testing is all a big part. I also do testing in UAT along with the business stakeholder just to make sure it's working there. And I don't know about you guys and how your sandboxes, but our sandboxes are a little different in each one. Like they're not full for all four of them. They're partials and all that kind of stuff. So it depends on what's in there, how it works. And we end our experience with a big business demo, to the ta-da moment, where our product managers from each team describe what has been done at a 3-week sprint for business. And then anyone who's done, the engineers who've actually worked on the projects, if it's something that really affects business, then we are expected to give them a quick demo, a 5-minute or less, what change we made and how that will affect their process and how they can use it. So that's our current process. So let's go over basic admin responsibilities. We all know what they are. They're very simple. There's only 4, right? Obtain the enhancement requirements, make the changes, test the changes, and get it done in time, right? Yeah. So in reality, if you're like most admins, you wear many different hats and you're juggling many priorities. The one thing that is critical, yet often pushed to the back burner, is testing. Sure, we complete a task and validate that the new thing is there, but due to the numerous priorities that have been given to us, the unexpected interruptions, the cases that come in, what's broken, and so on, and the countdown to our deadline, we can often omit a critical step, which is validating the true user perspective on the new thing that you just built. So now more than ever, we need to devote adequate time to ensure thorough testing. And however, now that we have the luxury of Salesforce dynamic forms and fields, and thorough testing will ensure key attributes are visible to the right users while also hidden to the users that shouldn't see it. Dun, dun, dun. Okay, so here you go. This is the basic strategy that we've come up with. And the first rule of testing is always, always, always test in a sandbox environment first. So if you don't have one, you should look up the directions to get one, okay? Do that first thing when you get home. Testing can be a bit of mental gymnastics exercise, and testing requires planning and careful execution. Our goal is to eliminate the haphazard testing methods that you may have used in the past. I am guilty. I'm right there. So the simple approach we are here to share with you today can be summed up using this basic formula. The Salesforce change that you're making, plus visibility needs, plus the user process or automations equals your validated outcome. So the basic formula defines what the change is, plus who and who is not authorized to see the change, and introduces any unique processes or automations that could negatively affect the outcome, which then produces the result, ultimately revealing whether the requirements were or were not fulfilled. If the outcome reveals the requirement was not met, then, of course, you're going to reconfigure the change and start the testing process over again. And I know that seems like a lot, but we're gonna dive into it just here a little bit deeper and share a few different ideas about testing. So the Salesforce change, this is really defined as the enhancement that you're making to the Salesforce environment. This is basically your user story, if you've been given a user story or the thing that you've been asked to enhance or change. And so it's not really, once you got the story or the thing that you're changing, I mean, you pretty much know. That's what you have. So that's what you're starting with. And then in this step in the formula, you're analyzing who should and who should not have visibility. And then identify a few users that fit and a few users who do not fit the visibility criteria. We suggest using at least 2 for each. If the requirement involves creating a new field, then you'll benefit from outlining the key attributes of the field, such as what should the field format and output be? What should the field level security be? Should a character limit be applied? Are there dependencies? If so, what are they? Who can see those, and etc. If another scenario might be if the requirement is for a case assignment rule. What are the criteria conditions to be considered? Should the case route to an existing queue, or does a new queue need to be created? Are all the dependencies accounted for? Do you need to create a new list view so that they can see it? So those are some ideas for visibility. We have found it to be really, really important to test both ways to get a 365-degree view of your work. So seeing who should see it and also documenting who should not see it, and test for that. So if somebody who shouldn't see it and you go in and try to do the thing and they can see it, well, something's not right. I need to go back and fix that because you can find yourself in a big trouble if they can see it and they weren't supposed to. So let's see. To figure out which profiles fit for your work, you can check the field accessibility in the affected object to determine which profiles should and should not have access to the new field. So this little button right here, it says View Field Accessibility, will give you a list of all the profiles in your org, and it'll tell you hidden or visible or editable. Those are basically the choices. So that's an important little button to know, and I'll talk about that a little bit more later. So next is the user process step. And in my opinion, if omitted, this step can create some unexpected challenges. In fact, this step just might be one of the primary reasons our team came to the conclusion that we needed a better testing process, one that is more clearly defined and eliminates as many gaps as we can for testing. So full disclosure, my coworker and she was working on a new telecom app integration, and this woman did extensive testing. Like, she is very thorough. She did testing for weeks and weeks, and she had other people test and all of this. However, when she rolled it out into production, the end users were experiencing audio issues with this new integration. And after much time trying to investigate the problem, we realized that those sales users, those sales reps, were logging into a VPN that we didn't have to log into that VPN every day for our work, but they did, and we didn't know about it. So that's the kind of user process we're talking about. Get to know the users and what are their regular steps, because it might in turn affect your integration that you're trying to set up. So it's just worthwhile to take a moment to kind of think about that, maybe do some investigation, trying to ask, have your business analyst ask, what kind of things do they do on their everyday. And also, and we just thought about this actually last week when I was saying, I'm coming to talk about this. We were thinking about it because we've been putting this in practice on ourselves this year. And we also figured in this slot also needs to be a shout out to automations, like whether it's a process builder, a validation rule, anything like that, a flow, of course. We need to put those into consideration because those will need their own kind of testing too. So it's important to note that. Let's move on here. So we are ending up at validating the outcome. We have arrived. It's time to define the expected outcomes and then apply the specific details gathered at the previous steps. Emulate the identified end user at the visibility step, connect to additional systems and/or applications, and begin your testing, okay? So how many of you have emulated a user? Do you know what I'm talking about? I'm just speaking to the regular Salesforce, new or old hat, whatever. You go in. That's a big part of this because you want to have their credentials and everything that they can see and their permissions and everything to see how your enhancement's going to work. So at this point, I'm going to do a little transition here, and I want to talk about, I know that there are various testing methods. There is manual and there's automation, and testing is important, and it can be time-consuming. Number one, I'm not here actually representing any company that's offering you a testing solution. I'm just a Salesforce admin sharing an idea with you. So, and number two, I just want to let you know, we do use Capado, but not to its fullest capacity. That is a possibility using a CRT testing that we are planning to research and kind of look into putting into more use in the future. So what I want to do now is I want to get your feedback. It's your turn to share what you do. Please use the QR code and take this quick little survey to see what the big brain in the room does. So that's all of you, if you can. And what I'm sharing with you today is really a way to think about testing, because no matter what automations we have, we've got to set it up. So it's important to think about these different ways. So I'm going to do a little shuffle here, and you're going to see the magic behind the thing. Can you see the graph? Yes? Okay. So first question, do you test using manual methods? Oh, wow, look at that. Yes is a majority. All right, I know I'm speaking to the right audience then today. Sometimes, is growing, sometimes is growing, and no. Okay, so do you test using automated methods? CRT testing, ICE-DQ, Magic Fuse. I looked up a few. I don't really use those, but I looked them up. So a few of you do, so that's good, and most of you don't, okay? And, if you're like, LexisNexis is a huge company, and with that, we have a huge tech stack. And guess what? Can we add another program just so I can have easier testing? Probably not. So I am right there with you. So I just was curious, if any of you have some that you use, I thought we would share. I see some Capado CRT up there, some ExcelQ, Provar, Ulysses, SOAP UI, Postman, X-Ray, and one that's to be named. We don't know what it is, but it's there. So thank you everyone for contributing to the big brain in the room. I appreciate it. Let's go back to here. I'm going to show you. All right. The next thing. So guess what? It's a spreadsheet. I know. But I wanted to show you. So I put that formula into a basic spreadsheet, and this one's empty. Just so for those of us stuck in manual testing, here's the strategy put into a visual representation. So you can see there is blank space for you to add the details from your user story, plus start thinking about visibility and user processes that could affect the enhancement that you are working on. So I put together a simple use case to demonstrate how I put this to work, and so I'm going to show you that. This little use case is based on current configurations, nothing Futurama. So we still are doing profiles and FLS and all that kind of stuff. We know it's going away, but this is where we are today. So you can see for my demo little org, I filled in the different changes. So my busy box stakeholders, that's my little company, have requested that a new field be added to the account page layout to indicate what age level each preschool works with. They want the field titled Ages Served, and they have gathered a list of the options they want. They think their sales and marketing teams need to see this information, but not their customer service teams. Since they will gather this information along the way of their sales process, it does not need to be required on the account page layout. So you can see how I've taken the user story information and populated the strategy here. So take note of the visibility section. You see that there in the center? Where I've pulled some of the actual profiles that would matter to it, and I've actually pulled some of the names of the people in my organization, just so I can have that information handy for my testing. And the validated expected outcomes, I've written in here what I expect to happen when I test to see if the test is successful. And you'll see let's see, it's just basically kind of steps. And I should, the last two, go to account, choose one, look at detail. Do you see the field ages served? This is to emulate the USA sales rep and BLS manager. Those are not the profiles that should see it. And the expected outcome is a no. So I went ahead and put that in there because I need to test it for that. So, and then here's the second page of my spreadsheet. This is actually my testing scenario. And so you'll just see it's pretty empty. Let's see, you can always add other columns and stuff to it. But I want to show you that here it is kind of filled out for the first level of testing. So you'll see I put the date in there. I put the users' names that I'm using to test. I put their profile. And I'll tell you why that's important is because when I go into different sandboxes, that same person isn't always in every sandbox. So I need to be able to locate another person with that same profile. And just so I know, and then I actually copy and paste this into my ADO record where it says that I tested. That was my task that I did. And I just copy and paste that part of the spreadsheet. Bam, that's there. So anybody that comes behind me and was like, well, what happened with this field? And why was this created? And how was it tested? And why is it breaking? Then they have all that information right there. Documentation doesn't have to be hard. It just needs to be there. So let's see. A big part of this testing sample would be done by emulating the various users. And by the way, I have environment in there. I have just sandbox, but in my current, I'll have dev sandbox, int sandbox. I'll have all of them, and I keep them all right there in the same spreadsheet. And I really just copy and paste for each one, and then fill in as I need to as I move along. So this is the manual. I do want to note that I'm going to give you a link here in just a minute to a folder with these resources in it. So don't worry about taking all the pictures if you need to. Another idea, because we are in the world of AI and everything. So at our organization, they just put together an LLM, a large language module, which is basically like ChatGPT, but it's for LexisNexis only. So it's a secure place where I can go ahead and put a prompt in there, anything about Salesforce or anything having to do with our company. And so I went ahead and created a prompt that included this whole strategy. And then what I did is I took, where it says enter text for users defined, I took what was in that spreadsheet, I copied it and I pasted it and put it into this prompt for each of those. So I copied each one of those and threw it in this prompt in my LLM, and it came up with a decent testing strategy, and I'll show you right here. So this is just kind of, no thanks. So here's how the prompt kind of ended up. It was pretty long-winded, of course. And formatting didn't really matter. I had points and bullets and all that kind of stuff. And here's the answer it came up with. And like any of these LLMs and ChatGPT and all that, you have to, use your own brain and decipher, does this actually make sense? One of our product managers or Scrum Masters was asking our team to put our user story stuff in the LLM, and then if they have QA testing, ask it to create testing steps for them and post it in that ADO story. So this is just kind of a version of that. So there's step 1, step 2, test field visibility on page layouts, test field visibility for customer service teams. So that notes the specific profiles, etc. So you can see, it's pretty much what I was doing on the spreadsheet too. So, there's a lot of different ways to do these things, and no way is absolutely perfect, but, we can learn from each other and we can do the best. And hopefully, so I can't tell you how many times, recently I had to use this test and I had my little spreadsheet and, I got diverted definitely to do something else. And I tell you what, when I had to get back to the testing, usually it takes me a while to get my mind mentally caught back into where I was and what I needed to be doing. Because I had all that document and spreadsheet, I was like, oh, I got to start at this one. Okay, boom, and I just started. So it was so easy. I know my time is over. I appreciate you guys coming. If you want the slide deck and resources for testing, it'll still lead you to a nice little Google folder, and you can get that there. And then, everybody got it? I'll give you a second more. Oh, 2 minutes. Oh, man, I'm surprised the hook is not pulling me off. Woo! Okay, well, thank you, everybody.